Wednesday. Valerie Hunt, RunRX, Ask Me Anything. Hope you had a great holiday, and of course New Year's is coming up. So I wanted to go over a couple things. I had two questions that I wanted to go over, and the first one was, of course I hear this a lot from people, but basically, if I have a twinge, should I still keep running? I think that's a challenge for all of us runners that don't want to miss any of our runs, right? When do I know that I should stop versus continuing to run? And then the second question was about coaching. And so I'll just start with that since it's fun and I'm a running coach. So most people reach out to us once they have a pain. And that's, of course, we love to have you. We'll run RX, run pain-free. And just a little bit of a background. Why would I get a running coach? Long story short is so that I can help you with your running. What the fun part of what we do, it's all online. It's a 12-week membership. You start with a gait analysis, and then you go right into the practice. It's a self-paced practice. So you practice on your own, and then you check in weekly with a video. You can reach out anytime. And then I also do Zoom, so I get to interact and coach you live. And what I do is, we only open it a certain amount of times because you have to imagine that if I'm going to spend time working with you, I want to have the ability and the time to work with you. So we try to just keep it at a manageable group. So we're going to stay open through Sunday. So if you want to come in, come on in. And what happens, like I said, is it's so, until you have a running coach or understand why you want to use one, it's for most people they come in is because of an injury. Or they've been just trying so hard, like I've had this shin splint or this, plantar fasciitis, IT band, hip pain. I'm stuck in a plateau. I would like to go to the next step in my running. And most of us, we've done all of them. Maybe you followed a training plan, but have you really worked on the movement of your run? And so having someone not just watch you run, but be able to help you correct your movement so you can run even better is what I do for you. And so the fun of that, of course, is that because you're running, you have to be able to come back and ask someone or be able to talk to someone about your run. More than just what was your heart rate, how many miles did you run. I'm helping you with how did the run feel, right? How did the movement of running feel? And for a lot of us, unfortunately, we don't think about the movement of running until we're injured. Until then, most people just go for a run. They start to not feel good in the run, buy new shoes, they feel better, they keep running, and it works for a while. And then at some point it doesn't work anymore. So that's when I'm here for you. That's question one. So if you have any interest, I'd love to see you. RunRX.fit for more information. Okay, second question was about if I am hurting. So one of the things to keep in mind, back in the day we used to say run through it. I don't say that anymore. But however, I do say that movement is how you keep moving. It's how you keep moving. And moving correctly is how you keep moving correctly and continue movement. So my answer is, I would say, if you can, ideally, can you reset in the run to keep going? And if there's no pain, great. And then even beyond that, are you willing to work on the movement to help you get out of that movement pattern? You see what I mean? So I give people three things. So say you have like a twinge. So we have this right now on the website. You can take the quiz, the RunRX quiz. So it'll say, is your calf hurting? Is your shin hurting? Is your knee hurting? Is it your hip? And then I give you a skill, strength, and self-care tip to try to help you get out of that movement pattern. So it's really cool. So for example, if someone says to me, you guys have to be, thinking of this as well. If every time I go for a run and I finish my run, my hip hurts, it's kind of your hip's way of saying to you, there's something going on during the run that's bothering me, right? So if I just simply think, well, I should stretch my hip more, and I keep stretching my hip, so then my hip feels better, I go for a run but the hip still hurts, I have to start thinking, something else is going on. So then I would say, keep stretching your hip, of course. And then here's a hip strength exercise. So we're about to do a hip strength exercise. And the reason I'm picking hips, so you guys know, is because of this. Generally, if I correct correct the movement of what's going down from below the hip, I can probably help correct the hip. And the reason I say that is because in running, where's our movement? Here, right? Whatever's, we can only control when we're actually here touching the ground, right? And our hip is never touching the ground, and our knee is never touching the ground. So if we let go of thinking of the hip and the knee and start thinking of the foot during run, it's going to let your hip relax. Isn't that cool? Because muscles and only contract and release. So if I let go of thinking about the muscle or some kind of movement, then it'll let go, okay? So let's just first have a little bit of fun with just this. In place, without me saying a word, just run in place. If someone said to you, hey, run in place, show me what you would do. So of course I'm gonna run like I'm supposed to, right? But most people will do a variation of what I just did. If you run in place, because we're not going anywhere, right? Most of us will in place actually move correctly. So without any thought about it, because we're just kind of mimicking, what is in our mind maybe running, right? So then here's where everything goes kind of wild. If I said to you, now run forward, most of us would look a little bit different. And we shouldn't. Ideally, we should have the same standard of movement for all of us to do, right? Just like if you learn how to do, I say this a lot, but I teach weightlifting. So if I teach you how to do a squat correctly, I'm not going to then teach this person to do a squat differently. They're going to do the same squat as you. Their ability to do a squat might be different than yours, and maybe they can do weight or not do weight. That could be different, right? So everyone has a different even goal in running. Some people want to run marathons, some people want to run 10K, some people run ultras. However, the foundation of running is still the same for all of us. So when we're in place, like I said, it's a natural thing for people to just kind of do this. And then when I say, okay, now start to go forward, two things happen, and it's one or the other. Either you take your foot and you push, very common, but puts a lot of pressure, of course, not just on the hip, but on my foot, on my calf, on my ankle, on my hamstring, and the whole back of the hip. So I'm either going to push and or what I also see is reaching. So otherwise, which is also just kind of known as kicking. So I see push and reach. I see that all of the time. So then look, my feet are going in two opposite ways because pushing takes the leg back, reaching takes the leg forward. So a lot of us are running with this like, and one puts stress on the whole back of my leg and the other one puts stress on the front. And the bummer is that means the hip is getting like a double whammy. Because if I push off the back and put pressure on the hip and then I kick forward and put pressure on it again, you realize it's a constant impact. Is how you're running. It's amazing. And you don't feel it, like I said, until, unfortunately, we get the Shin, Splint, planners, IT band, whatever it is. But they're all coming from the same thing. It's the movement pattern is incorrect. So you could stretch it and stretch it and stretch it, strengthen it and strengthen it and strengthen it, and it's still not going to help you get better in the movement. So one thing to keep in mind for the new year is if I think about the movement and the correct movement in my run, even if it's not exactly right, it's going to help me get there a little bit better. So today I want to just have fun with pulling and then introduce the concept of falling. And then I'll finish with just something fun you can think about. So I put this thing here. This is going to be my curve, okay? The reason I'm doing that is because one of the things to keep in mind when we're running to avoid reaching can be just a mindset, meaning, remember, like I said, if I'm always pulling up, right, which we're about to do together, and I kind of have this image in my mind like this thing is here, then I'll be less likely to kick, right? So I'm just putting that there for right now. So here's what I want you guys to do. You don't need to have any equipment, but bend your knees for just a second and just hop. Just a light, gentle hop. Okay, now you don't have to raise your hands or anything, but this is just something interesting. Most runners I work with that come into RunRX have been running almost all of them are not including elasticity work in their training. So, I mean, I can't see you right now, obviously, but think back in your training. How many of you guys are including elasticity work in your run? So what does that mean? Elasticity work is like hopping and jumping. You can do curb run. There's a lot of things you can do. The challenge becomes running itself is an impact activity, right? High impact. So running is high impact. We want to reduce the amount of impact. How do we reduce impact? We reduce impact by using muscle elasticity. So muscle elasticity, this is just kind of fun. We all have it. It's not like fast twitch and slow twitch muscles. Everybody has muscle elasticity. But you have to develop it. So it's use it or lose it, right? So bending your knees really helps because it keeps you're ready to go. So if you bend your knees, I want you to feel, we're not going to jump, I don't want to get taller, but if I connect myself, this is really cool, you're like a spring. And if you stay with your knee bent and start hopping, what you'll start to feel is called a rebound. So I'm not jumping, I am hopping, but I'm not jumping, my knees are staying bent, and what I'm feeling is a very light up, 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 up. It's the foundation of my run. So hops are a really important way to get into running. So if I'm newer to running, it's a great way to start developing elasticity, strengthen your foot, and all of that good stuff. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is we're going to take that kind of sensation of hopping and I'm going to make it singles. So going back to both feet, just hopping. Now I want you to just start hopping singles. So it goes up, 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 up. So in place it's a little bit hoppy. Up, 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 and relax. In place it's a little bit hoppy. So what happens to start traveling, like I said, this is when we go nuts. You have to pretend like we're staying in this circle. So my foot can only travel up this direction. So this is important. Your feet are going to feel the same. So when you're running and you start with this up, up, up business, if you allow yourself to fall forward, your feet will keep pulling. Now I don't have a lot of space here, right? So I'll just start right here, the end of my mat. It's like a string is pulling me. Your feet should feel lighter. You should feel this sensation like I'm being lifted, I fall, and my foot pulling is actually a natural response. What's so cool, right? So people used to talk to me about, you know, I wear minimalist shoes. So there's a lot of like, oh, it's natural running. No, it's just running in minimalist shoes. Just like being barefoot is you're running barefoot. You're running up a hill, you're running up a hill. But if you start to connect with what is running, it becomes less about that aspect of it and more about, oh, that's why it's so fun. You know, I used to watch people run and they'd run by you and they'd look effortless, they'd look smooth. And you're like, man, what are they doing? What is it that's so different that makes them do that and I'm not doing that? And the reality is most of us are holding so much tension and we're doing so much effort. We're like pumping our arms or we're reaching or we're pushing. We're doing all this work and it's hard. And then I'm like, no, no, no. A lot of people are putting so much work into their mile, but they're not actually traveling anywhere. When you guys see yourselves run, you know, when I watch people and help them with their running, I help you with your potential of what's to come. Because if I do anything other than that, meaning if I try to hold tension, if I try to swing my arms, if I try to pull excessively or any of that, then it's going to take away from running. So the simplicity, guys, I'm not kidding, is getting comfortable with the understanding of, oh, I have to connect with gravity and I have to learn how to pull. And I'm telling you, once you learn, it's learned forever, right? That's kind of the fun of it. I saw a question. I want to improve my running speed. How can I improve my leg pull? That's a great question. And yes, registration is open. I am so excited. We've gotten about 5 people so far. I'd love to see about 10, 15 more people because then I can work with all of you. Remember, just keep in mind, when you work with me, not do your gait analysis, it's just me and you. One of the things that's really fun for people though, when they do come in, you have your, it's on you. You can either do private, whereas no one sees your video but me. But some people like to open it up and have other people. No one else can analyze you, but it's fun to see other people sometimes and learn from that as well. I'd love to see your run. Okay, one of the things I wanted to finish with, it was a great question, and it's really, really a good one. And someone said, I want to run faster. How high should I pull my foot? I love that question. Here's why. Listen, no matter the speed or distance, I only have to pull my foot up from the ground. This is so important for everyone to understand. No matter how fast I'm going to run, no matter the distance I'm going to run, my job, your job, it's called finishing the pull. What that means is as the body falls forward, the foot will start to pull naturally. Your body weight's going that way. So what happens is you fall and finish the pull. This whole part, once you finish the pull, hamstring determines the height of the pull. Your hamstring, which is based on your speed and on your fall. So if you really want to run faster, then I want you to focus on, first of all, you've got to be able to hold your pose, right? And you've got to start feeling fall at a higher angle. And it all starts the same, meaning first you've got to just practice what is pulling, understanding I only need to pull to here, but watch guys, if I fall, like say it's a 10-minute mile, fall, do my foot. Let's say I'm gonna run a 10-minute mile, I fall, pull. You see how the height of my pull is not very high because it's not a very fast run. So let's say I wanted to run an 8-minute mile. So watch, I have to fall more. Fall, pull. You see my foot pulled higher. Let's say I'm trying to run really fast. I want to get to Boston. Right? So then you've got to fall, pull. And you see, all of the height of the pull was my hamstring, not me. Because you will never be faster than gravity or the reflexive response of your hamstring. So remember I said earlier, if you don't think about a muscle, it will work on its own. So when you're running and your job is simply to finish the pull, the height will happen simply by how far you're willing to fall. The hamstring already knows how to do that. Isn't that cool? So for most of us, if we take the time to learn the elements, the pose, the fall, the pull, then you have the ability to fall. Sky's the limit. Then it's just practice and training, right? So it's a great question just so everyone understands that someone that's running faster than you, they're not using necessarily more muscle effort. They're just falling more and pulling quicker because your cadence is also going to go up. So it's a lot of fun to see like what your potential is, because most people bombs you. They've never even thought about falling, so they don't even know yet that they could do that, right? So that is a fun question, and have fun with it. Those of you guys that, by the way, if you want to go through on the YouTube channel, we have the RunRX Reboot 30-day program. It's fantastic. Takes you through the skills, strength, and self-care. So it's got stretches, it's got elasticity drills, but it's also got the elements of the running. So every time you practice, you're just getting better at holding your pose, at feeling the fall, and of course pulling. All right, guys, I would love to see you. Happy New Year. Send questions in. Always happy to answer, and of course, love to see your run. So I will see you next week. Thank you, guys. Have a great week.